What happened? It's very simple. He won. He won. Trump won. I mean, that's really the end of the story, right? As far as what happened. I think that a lot of the consternation here is coming from a couple of different places, right? So in 2016, when he won, it was novel, it was new, it was crazy, but people were like, okay, Hillary's a phenomenally bad candidate. Nobody likes her. Like, okay, like people kind of got it. And then when Biden beat him in 2020, everybody was like, okay, now we can go back to normal American politics. That's kind of boring and things like that. That's not the case. That's not what happened. Okay. He won last night. And I think the reason that a lot of people are having a lot of consternation is, they don't understand the why, right? They don't understand why he lost. He won. They're like, what? Because she wasn't a worse candidate than Biden, right? So the fact that she lost so much ground in like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and so many places and with so many different types of voters is baffling to a lot of people. Before I kind of get into the why, right? Here's where we're going to start. Before I talk about why, we're going to listen to our lovely patron saint of liberalism and what he had to say about this. And that, of course, is Mr. Jon Stewart. What did Jon have to say about all this?
Here's what we know, is that we don't really know anything, and that we're going to come out of this election and we're going to make all kind of pronouncements about what this country is and what this world is. And the truth is, we're not really going to know shit. And we're going to make it seem like this is the finality of our civilization and this and thing. Yep. We're all going to have to wake up tomorrow morning and work like hell to move the world to the place that we prefer it to be. And I just want to point out, just as a matter of perspective, that the lessons
this is the important
that
part.
Our pundits take away from these results,
and that includes me,
pronounce with certainty, will be wrong. And we have to remember that. If you're in 2008, when Barack Obama won,
there's no question that this is the beginning, the first election of the future, really. And I think we are moving towards a post-racial America.
Yeah, that lasted a day. And then, of course, in 2012, Obama won again. And the lesson was,
the GOP needs to send a powerful signal to Hispanic voters that the party respects them.
That was the lesson they learned after that victory.
Mm-hmm.
And they were certain of it. And send a powerful signal to the Hispanic community. The GOP did.
When Mexico sends its people, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
Which apparently was the winning message. And that taught Democrats in 2016 what?
Maybe what the Democrats will be looking for is somebody with some inside experience, but who's a generation younger.
It's obviously going to be younger. It's going to be from a new generation.
Yeah.
Need I say it?
It's a great honor and humility. I accept this nomination.
And that turned out to be a winning message again, which led to an insurrection. And the lesson from that was,
when Donald Trump leaves office on Wednesday morning, he will leave Washington a pariah.
Donald Trump will never be allowed to set foot in the Capitol again. Never.
Ever. My point is this. But this isn't the end. I promise you, this is not the end. And we have to regroup, and we have to continue to fight and continue to work day in and day out to create the better society for our children, for this world, for this country, that we know is possible.
And that, of course, is our lovely patron saint of liberalism, Mr. Jon Stewart. Why? Yeah, I wish I could get Jon on the show. I wish I could get Jon on the show. That would be awesome. I have like 485 subscribers on YouTube, so, you know, that's not gonna happen. It would be nice. Like, I would love it, but it's not gonna happen. So, what do we actually think happened? I mean, people didn't show up, right? The turnout was way lower, considerably lower than it was in 2020. Just less motherfuckers voted. Harris and company went in with this theory of the case that there was enough Republicans who were just fucking sick of Donald Trump that they would come over and hold their noses and vote for her. Based on the turnout, my guess is the people who are Republicans who did not want to vote for Donald Trump just stayed the fuck home. Okay? They just stayed home. They just stayed home. And that was that. The other thing that happened is, and this is my one big pronouncement, and I could be wrong, much like John said, but here's my thing. Democrats lost the information war. They've lost it completely. The right-wing ecosystem has built this information ecosystem with loads of cash behind it, right? Behind the Daily Wire and Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro and all these motherfuckers, okay? And between that and kind of the Joe Rogans of the world and everything else, they've built this ecosystem to get their message out that doesn't really cost, like they don't have to buy ads, right? They're not doing it the old-fashioned way. They're doing it with new media. They're doing it with social media, right? Elon put his thumb on the scale on Twitter. That just happened, okay? It just happened, okay? And the Democrats just haven't done that. They just haven't. Okay, there is no Andrew Tate, right, on the Democrats. There's no Joe Rogan on the left side of the aisle. Okay, there's just not. Okay, and it sucks. It sucks. Okay, that's where they've really lost the plot. They don't know how to build that ecosystem. And even if they were to start today, and I was having this conversation with people on Twitter today about this, saying, look, even if they start now, they're 15 years behind, right? Because Ben Shapiro, PragerU, all these motherfuckers are already built. They are already in the system. Okay? That's just what it is. Okay? And that's not going to change anytime soon. That's just what it is. And the way that I know this is I was with somebody last night during the election who didn't vote at all, but, was somebody that I see from time to time, every week or so. And there were multiple times when me and my other friend who was here and we were watching the election together while we played some Magic, we sat down and he would be like, why is this a thing? Right? And because he was under this misconception that a lot of the things that drove him nuts about politics was the fault of the fucking Democrats. He was like, well, why isn't there this? And I'm like, because the Republicans don't want it. He was flabbergasted by the Electoral College. He was like, why do we do it this way? And I'm like, because Republicans, they don't want to get rid of the Electoral College. They have a massive fucking advantage. They just do. That's what it is. It reminded me of a time when I was at drill, I was doing Army stuff, and it was right after the Puerto Rico hurricane when Trump was president the first time. And we were talking about the Puerto Ricans who were migrating to the mainland, right? Because of the hurricane, because they had nowhere else to live. And so they moved in with family on the mainland. And he was like, well, how long can they stay here? They'll have to go back, right? And I looked at him, I was like, you do know that Puerto Rico is part of America. Like, they can just come here and they're citizens. And he was like, what? And this was a guy in the military. Like, he did not fundamentally understand that Puerto Rico was part of the United States of America, right? There is so much lack of information and stuff like that. And part of it is our own, like, just lack of paying attention. I am the opposite. I'm a fucking political junkie. Okay. I love politics. I love politics. I love sports. I love movies. I love all this stuff. It's highly entertaining to me. And the issue is there are so many people who aren't that like engaged at the level that I am, that I spend time with. And this is, I think, why I see how this happens, is I spend time with people who aren't as engaged, not nearly as engaged as I am within my circle. And they get all of their information from the bombardment of social media posts at TikTok, at Twitter, at Facebook, wherever it's coming from. And again, the right wing has this ecosystem built. And by the way, if I hear a conservative say to me that they're being censored for the next fucking 8 years, I'm going to smack them. Okay? Like, no, dude, you guys own the fucking internet fucking sphere. You own it. You fucking own it. So quit griping that you're being censored, because it's crap. It's absolutely crap. Okay? That's all there is to it. Okay? That's all there is to it. So yeah, I mean, that's what happened. He flipped, Latino men, massively went for Trump over Kamala. It's a huge shift. Just a massive shift. And that wasn't surprising to me at all. I have Latino family members, and I've said this for a long time. Now, previously, my statement had been, if the Republican Party would just get rid of the racism, they'd never lose an election again, because Latinos, and I speak knowing a lot of my family, a lot of them are very, very conservative, extremely conservative. And so, you know, it's not surprising to me when they go conservative. It doesn't shock me at all. At all. It turns out he didn't have to turn off the racism. They'll come over there because they're willing to pull up the ladder behind them. I saw so many interviews and so many exit poll people when they were saying, you know, blah, 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 what do you want? I was like, well, I want to end immigration. They're like, aren't you an immigrant? Well, yeah, well, I'm fine, but not those other people. Right. And so that's, we have to come to the conclusion that that's just, it is what it is. Okay. That's what's going to happen. That's where we were. And that's what did happen. Right. And again, a lot of motherfuckers stayed home, which I think is probably the part that is frustrating the most people, is I think that again, turnout was just lower. And then he flipped just the right part of the electorate. And just enough. He didn't win by huge margins in the swing states. And we're going to go to ours. So also what happened, I'm going to focus on Washington. We're one of the only states that actually moved to the left. Most of it's us in Colorado, I think, we're the only ones that went, nope, we're going this way. Everybody else, California, man, some of the ballot initiatives in California, they really went to the right. But we'll look at Washington because that's where we are, right? Obviously, Kamala here, this percentage is lower, but these ones, holy smokes. RFK got 1.15 in this state. Jill Stein, Claudia De La Cruz, these are all protest votes down here. Chase Oliver, which blows my mind, but whatever. Senator Maria Cantwell won, like, in a walk. She's up by 600,000. Susan Del Bene in District 1, Rick Larson, none of that surprising. This is the only one. This is the one right here. Congressional District 3, this is the one that Republicans wanted to pick up. This is the second time Joe Kent has run for that seat. This is the seat that covers, like, Vancouver on the south side of the state and the big rural areas around Vancouver, which is why the percentage is a little bit closer. She's only winning by 4%. She's winning by, about 12,000 and change. She's got the seat. Like, Joe Kent's not going to come back from that. But that's the one that Republicans were hoping to grab, and it wasn't going to happen. He's a really bad candidate. Again, this is the second time they've run him. This actually, up until 2020, until 2022, was a safely Republican seat. And then they started running crazy election deniers in it and MAGA heads, and it just didn't work out. You'll notice this one is Republican versus Republican, some GOP on GOP violence, because we have a top two primary system. So in that district, whoever gets the most, whichever two. So that's why you get double party people. So that's Eastern Washington. 5, that's again Eastern Washington. That's Republican. 6, which I think is the northwest side, is Democrat. Pramila Jayapal, like, in a walk. Kim Schreier in a walk. She won by 9. Adam Smith, again, none of these are really surprising, especially since this is Democrat on Democrat. None of those are particularly surprising. You know, as far as ballot measures, what's interesting to me is they pretty much all failed, right? Except for the one about natural gas. That's the only one that won. This one was about getting rid of an excise tax on capital gains. That failed. These were all anti-taxation measures, and they all failed. Carbon tax credit trading failed. And then this is for self-employed, for an exemption for public insurance, and that failed. This is the only one where I was like, oh, that's interesting. For voter turnout, 5 million people in the state of Washington voted. That's pretty cool. King County comprising 1.4 million of that, Pierce County being 577,000, and Snohomish County being 531,000. Those obviously being the 3 biggest ones. Whatcom come in at 167,000. Spokane 375,000. You know, I mean, the population centers are what the population centers are. So, yeah, I mean, that's what happened here. Everywhere else in the country kind of tacked to the right. It just is what it is, guys. Like, I understand a lot of the consternation. I understand the frustration. But it's just, like I said, it is what it is. So yeah, that's what happened. We lost the Democrats lost the information fight. That's the thing that the biggest takeaway that I took away from this election, especially again, listening to young people. Oh, sorry. That's the other thing. Gen Z is remarkably conservative. Let's see if I can find Gen Z 2024. Yeah. Only half. She was down 10% amongst young people, 18 to 34. Jeez. Gen Z is remarkably conservative. That's the other thing that kind of like, what? That kind of blew people away out of this election. Chat saying, now we need to do what gamers do best, lock ourselves in our for years. We're going to talk about that next. What do we do next? What's going to happen now?